Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here. It's great to see such a great crowd to listen to this presentation we're about to have here. We are going to call this meeting to order at 5:35 p.m. and public comments. I do not believe we have any public comments today, so we will pass it on to Dr. Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for being here. Tonight, we're going to have MGT who will be presenting the McAllen ISD Facilities Master Plan for 2025 through 2034. This report provides an overview of the district's long-term facility needs, enrollment projections, and the strategic recommendations to support future growth and modernization of our school district. At this time, since our presentation is up on screen, I will ask our Board of Trustees if we can join the audience on this side of the room so that those of us so we can see the presentation that we're going to be having. So if we can step and be part of the audience over here, so that way we can be able to follow the presentation. Let me just give a little bit of a background while we set up. What we have been doing for the last 2 years, we are planning to see if we can have a bond for McAllen ISD. I wish I could tell you that all of our buildings look like this one, a beautiful building, right? But that's not the case. And that's why we have been trying to see how we can make better improvement in our facilities. And what we have been doing for the last 2 years, we've been looking at our finances. We've been looking at the money that we owe from previous bonds. And the last time that a bond was approved in McAllen ISD was 20 years ago, was in 2005. So a lot of things have happened in the last 20 years, but we still owe money from those previous bonds from 20 years ago or older. And we're about to pay off those bonds. And so, which is a good thing for us, that we are going to be debt-free from previous bonds. And now it provides us an opportunity to look into looking at a bond, looking at our facilities, and look at, see if we can borrow money so that we can improve a lot of our schools, because it's been 20 years that we haven't done this, okay? We've been just keeping up with it on a year-to-year basis based on our own budget, but that's not enough. And so now that we have looked at our finances for the last 2 years, we've been able to speed up some of those payments and pay off those previous loans from a long time ago. It puts us in a good position to see if we could borrow money and be able to do some facility improvements, okay? Now, I know that we also look at our tax rate, because that is important for our community and everyone, to make sure that our tax rate it stays where it needs to be, where it is, but not increase it. And we have worked it out for the last 2 years, where if we go for a bond and if we call on a bond for this for 2026, which is next year, we're going to be able to perhaps maintain the same tax rate and be able to borrow some money so that we can make some improvements at a lot of our schools, okay? But in doing that, what kind of improvements do we need to make? We hired some consultants who are going to be presenting to all of us, MGT. They have been working with our Facilities Forecast Advisory Committee, which is made up of parents, community members, and staff members. They've been working with us. They've done visits to our facilities. We've done our own visits with our Facility Advisory Committee. And we have put a report together to see where are the needs at every campus, okay? And what they're going to talk to you about today is an overview about the results of that study. Now, we're not gonna go campus by campus and priority by priority, because we could be here all day, because it's a long list. If you can imagine 20 years of not doing this, of not upgrading facilities, that list can add up. So what they will do is they will give you an overview of the bigger ticket items of our facilities that we need to improve and that we need to be better and we need to perhaps remodel or fix or do some extensions, and that's what they're going to do. So what I want to advise all of you is that we have been very careful in the way we've been approaching this bond, because we want to be successful. And if we're successful, we'll find out in May 5th of 2026, because that will be the day of the election for the bond. So we still have all of these months, whatever remains of October, all the way till February, when the board calls on a bond. And then after that, we'll go out there and educate more on the community about the need for this bond. But we're already starting those steps right now by doing meetings like this. We want to be transparent. We want to be very open, very honest about our needs and where we need to go with this bond. And so, as you can see, we have been trying to be very careful and do this with outside consultants to help us identify the needs of our school district. Also, we have some financial advisors who will be introducing a little bit. They've also been helping us to look at our finances so that we can maintain that same tax rate and be able to borrow money for facility improvements that we need to make in McAllen ISD. Our kids deserve better. Our kids deserve better facilities, better classrooms, and we feel that we're headed in the right direction. We feel that the timing is right financially. That is the right time, and that this is the perfect time for us to do something about our school district and improve in our facilities. Now, we also have hired some pre-bond architects, and Ms. Garcia will also introduce them. They're here, because then they're going to help us once the MGT presents to the board, to all of us, their studies about all our schools and all the needs that we have, because we have a lot of needs. We're going to have to make some priority needs, because we can't cover everything. I mean, it's just so much that needs to be fixed throughout our district. There's so many things that we need to cover, because it's been, like I told you, 20 years that we're behind. But we've hired also some pre-bond architects that are going to work with the Facilities Advisory Committee, all of us here in this room, the board, to identify the highest priority needs throughout the district, so that we can start improving our schools, okay? Are we going to cover everything that MGT found, that we found through our walkthroughs? No, but we have some desperate needs throughout the district that with this bond, we are going to be able to level the playing field in some of our buildings, in some of our classrooms, in some of our departments, because some of them are like almost on life support, if you know what I mean. Like the need is greater in some areas, and we need to identify those greater needs and to see how far the bond will take us to cover those greater needs that we have throughout the district. So as you can see, a lot of walkthroughs, a lot of reporting that we've done, a lot of outside help that we have acquired, so that when we go out there and we identify the greater needs of our district and be able to put a number to each of those projects with a grand total, then that's what we're going to ask for the bond. And we are going to then go out there and inform the community of our needs and the importance of having this bond. And most important to everyone is maintaining that same tax rate and not going over, staying where we are and being able to make us better throughout the district. Okay? So just wanted to talk to you about that, give you an overview, and I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Superintendent, Ms. Lorena Garcia, so she can do the introductions of our presenters. And by all means, if anyone has questions, I think we want to open it up, presenters, if we can open up a little bit of a discussion on some of the areas that we are going to talk about, that we're going to cover, so that that way everybody has a better understanding of what we're trying to do and where we are going with this. Okay? So a lot of homework has been done, a lot of reporting has been done, a lot of analysis has been done for us to get to this point. And so I'm excited, and I'm glad that we're headed in the right direction with all of the research-based, all the data that we collected, so that you'll see that we are doing a very complete study, very well documented, so that when we identify all our needs, you're going to see that it's because we did our homework and we did everything the right way. Okay? Oh, we also have Mr. Trustee Haddad. Welcome, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Ms. Lorena Garcia, is
Right
she
here.
here? Okay. Oh, you want to come up here or you want to stay over there? I kind of like take over here, so.
Yes.
But thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. And thank you for coming and joining us to see the fruit of our labor. We have been working on this process for over 9 months, and a lot of you have been part of this journey, so we thank you. And we thank our Board of Trustees for allowing us to embark on this journey as well. With us tonight is our financial advisor firm, Estrada Hinojosa. If you all can please stand to be recognized. Some of you have heard their presentations at our FFAC meetings, and they've been with us throughout all of this process as well. And we recently hired a company by the name of Fluger, and they are here with us tonight. So if you all can, Dr. McGowan, if you all can please stand as well to be recognized. Thank you for joining us. And we will start working with them, as a matter of fact, immediately. They're already on board. And so tonight with us from MGT, we have Dr. Lance Richards and Ms. Narissa Sparks. And I'm going to turn it over to them. They will be our guest speakers for tonight.
Test. Well, good evening, or good late afternoon. Thank you for coming out this evening. My name is Dr. Lance Richards, and I'm with MGT. And it is my honor and pleasure to be with you tonight and share some important information. Now, what district officials didn't share with you is they talked about doing their homework, but the reality is when you leave here, you will have your own homework, because what we're entrusting you with is this information to be community ambassadors, to kind of go out into the community and have what I like to call that elevator speech. We need for you to go out and help define the problem for folks in your community. You clearly have an interest in your school community. You have a concern about your schools, or you wouldn't be here tonight. So all of you are challenged with kind of going back and having this conversation, reaching out to 5 or 10 or 20 or 100 people and sharing this information so people can begin to frame this question. Who is MGT? MGT is a company that travels the nation working with school communities to help them make informed yet sometimes tough decisions going forward. And when we talk about this bond and we talk about facilities and the scores we're going to share with you tonight, just approach it with this in mind. Deferred maintenance is a tax on your future. It is never going to be any cheaper to replace a roof on your house, or to fix the plumbing in your house, or to change out the HVAC at McAllen High School than it is today. Barring some kind of weird copper shortage or any of those things, none of those things. Future repairs will get cheaper, said no one ever, okay, because of the challenges around that. So let's get started. So again, some introductions. Again, I'm Dr. Lance Richards. A little background. I am a former school superintendent, elementary principal. Who are my elementary people in the room? Best job ever. Love elementary. Later, I was a director of operations, transportation. I still have my bus license, so if we get in a jam, I can drive the yellow limousine and get us out of here. All right. And been with MGT a little over 3 years, but 33 years in public education. So I've had a great opportunity to work in your community and work with some great folks here. One other sidebar, he talked about retiring that debt to go forward to keep things tax neutral. We don't see that everywhere we go. Okay, so that is responsible school leadership, and I would applaud your district and your district leadership for those efforts, because that's the right way to approach these things. Because let's remember, while all of us are here and we have kids in the school and we're directly tied to the schools, perhaps, a lot of folks in your community don't, and those are the folks that are going to help pay for these buildings and make some nice spaces for you going forward. So again, we're going to talk about the facilities master plan findings, and then my partner in crime over here, Nurses Sparks, will be sharing some more specifics about the facilities and the dollars that are in behind that. All right, again, we're going to review all these things, and there will be homework. There's a test afterwards, and it's not multiple choice. All right, so quick demographics here, and I apologize that I'll have my back to you, but it can't be helped. So some quick information here. You're at about 150,000 folks in the year 2024. We're anticipating some growth going forward, about 10%, a little bit behind Texas as a whole perhaps, but ahead of the nation overall. And again, population by age. Now this is important because the block that we have on that screen is your school age population. And what you can see is a little bit of growth at the younger years, and a little bit of decline in that band that is all in to your schools. Of course, the 15 to 19 stretches out a little bit, but that presents a little bit of a demographic challenge for you going forward, and we'll talk about that more momentarily. But as you can see, as your population goes forward, you can kind of see an age band there increase. Student projections. When we do our projections, when we look at potential demographic impacts on your school community going forward, there's several things that are baked into this cake. I used to use a sausage analogy, but people tend to like cake better than sausage, so we'll go with cake. So these are the ingredients. Number one, we take a look at historic birth rates. And this is a factor of who's born today and who's going to show up in kindergarten later. How many of those kids are you going to capture when they're born into your community? Okay? And then we're going to look at in the other birth factors. Here's what we know. There's a lot of folks out there walking dogs instead of pushing baby carriages. And my own kids are emblematic of this problem. They're both in their, I'm blessed I have 2 grandchildren, but I didn't get them till my kids were in their 30s. And so there's a lot of delayed childbirth. They'd kill me to know that I use them as there's a lot of delayed childbirth out there, and families are smaller. So those impact things. So that leads to the mobility factors. Mobility is that number of folks that kind of come in and out of a grade each year. How many of them, if you show up in first grade and you track them across your district, how many of them stay with you as they go out the other side at 12th grade? And so that's the mobility factor, track in, track out. And then student yield factors, and that's housing development. So if you've got smaller families and a lower birth rate and maybe a lot of folks not moving in, how many new houses are going to come in? How many apartments, single-family homes? Single-family homes are kind of that sweet spot. How many homes are going to turn over to bring in those younger families? Those types of things. So all of those things matriculate down in to your student forecasts. And I share this because this is the mathy math part of it. We use several models to chart this out so that we're not just relying on one process, one model, so that we have kind of a global picture. And as you look at this, it looks a lot like, my wife's name is Melissa, so she's taking great joy in the recent Hurricane Melissa that is out of the Caribbean right now. But this is very much like that modeling for hurricane forecasting. You can kind of see the different models, where they track. You know, that linear regression is an outlier there. And you can kind of see how we're moving across that band in order to create your modeling. So what we're seeing here is you've got the blue bar is that 2024, 2025, which is the data we had to work with coming into this process. And what you can see is you had historic highs back into 2015, 2014, looking backwards of almost 23,000 students, I believe. As you trend forward, we're just right at that 20,000 student range, 19.5, 19.3 as you go forward. So no dramatic cliff in terms of demographics, but a slight decline down. Now, continuing with that weather analogy, we feel really good about our 3-year forecast and perhaps about our 5-year. It's that 10-year that you have to kind of, you got to bring in some other assessments, much like the weather. If you get a 10-day forecast about a party on Saturday, you pay attention, but you don't do anything. On the 5-year, you might make some alternate plans. On the 3-day forecast of rain, you're moving the party indoors. So very much like this, it's important, much like the weather, that you refresh your data regularly, because there's things that can impact it. You can have a new housing development come on. You can have new jobs come into your community. There's things that can happen that can impact that student population. So, and as you see, you can see the bottom three are the trend lines across to the different grade bands. All right, so capacity and utilization. Part of our analysis is taking a look at your schools, their footprint, the rooms, everything, and then doing some math in behind that in terms of utilization. And these are our multipliers here, okay? And we use 90, 66, and 66. And you're going, well, this accounts for schedules, but you have block scheduling in your middle schools and high schools. So these multipliers impact or work in for that scheduling to say, okay, we have this X number of rooms and this number of days across these periods. And so these are the multipliers that build out the utilization for your school. So a target capacity allows for the programs in your school. It allows for, say you got that bumper crop of kindergartners one year where you got an extra 20 or 30 kids that show up. And so it allows for that bumper crop, and maybe, because kids don't come in fine units of 20, in bundles of 20. Similarly, in the high school, some of your academic classes may have lower numbers, while some of your general ed classes will have higher numbers. Your band may have 40 in it, while your choir has 20. So all of those factors come into these multipliers for utilization, so we can give you a target utilization. So again, we take a look at the maps, we look at the facility age, all those things, but again, facility programs, programs housed within that facility. And many times capacity can be a choice, because if there's a lot of talk about CTE, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more here in just a moment. But when you do career and technology education and you go forward with that, if you build out a new lab in a space, that means you're taking square footage off. If you bring in more social emotional support or social workers or counselors, they've got to have real estate. So folks that come in, these programs that you build into your schools can impact your facility in terms of capacity. So overall, capacity and utilization for K through 5. And as you track these numbers, you can see current enrollment based on the number. Well, this is not going to work up there, is it? You can see the current enrollment. We can see that max capacity if every room was stuffed to the gills, and what our target capacity would be. And you can see our color coding here to the right. Now, the percentages here are a little bit different, because we say that 80 to 95 is that sweet spot. Your cafeteria can kind of handle the kids that are coming through. Your hallways can handle the class flow in terms of secondary. Your things aren't overcrowded in terms of facilities. You got a little room for growth. You got a little room for you can do the ebb and flow. So that 80 to 95, really that 85 to 95 becomes your sweet spot going forward. And what you can see here based on the numbers that you have is you have some disparities in utilization. Now this is important. This is an important caveat. These numbers do not include portables, because you're looking at that red on the screen, you're going, well, how can they have almost 130%? Well, there are portables, okay? And so your district, long-term goal for your district is have every kid in brick and mortar, which is a thing that MGT advocates for. Nationally, we don't count portables as part of the capacity of a facility, because we feel like students should be inside a building. So these are you got an overall utilization of 77, which isn't terrible, but you can see in those pink areas of growth or for change. Also, I think it's important to note your target capacity versus your enrollment. You've got roughly 8,900 students. You got 11,500 capacity. There are some empty seats in your district in terms of elementary. Similarly, as you look at your 9 through 12, did I miss middle school? Oh, there we go. Middle schools. Again, a little bit of utilization, a little capacity at Brown, capacity at Travis. The overall average isn't terrible in terms of, because Morris, again, with the portables, is at 136. So the overall average is, you're looking at current enrollment of 4,366. You got a target functional capacity of 4,877. You're almost in line there, a little bit of capacity available. It's just a matter of the arrangement. And similarly, capacity and utilization for 9-12. Again, portables on site at McAllen, but strong utilization at the high school level. And then one more here. Notice the asterisk, the double asterisks on UTRGV, beautiful space, by the way, and MAR. Those have specialty programs, so these students actually have a home school as well. So they come from McAllen or they come from Rowe. So these numbers are respective of the programs there, not district district enrollment. All right. Oh, what happened there? Overall capacity and utilization. Again, just a snapshot for the entire district, so you can kind of see that on page. You can see the color coding as it runs down there. Some over, but you do have some orange and pink on the screen. And this presentation is posted on your school's website. So for those of you that are taking pictures, I'll save you the effort. Sorry. You can take pictures if you want. It won't hurt my feelings. All right. So facilities assessment. Again, I talked about, your deferred maintenance. These scores, I think it's important to note, these scores are used as multipliers for your budgetary process that Narissa is going to talk about later. So when you see these scores, you can kind of think of them as, if you want to get all your schools up to that 80 into the green, and they're sitting at 60, you got to spend about 20% of the value of that facility to get it up into that, just as a general benchmark as you move through with this. So again, this one's a little more delineated, 60, 70, 80, 90, straight up like the old school grading scale. And here we go. So again, you're looking here at your elementaries. You do have some green, Sanchez there at 85.77. But you have several schools in the orange in terms of their overall facility score. This is building condition, and you can see how it ranks here to the left. Now, as you look at this, remember, when we chart these things, and when Narissa and our team looks at the facilities, you may see some schools that are newer that may have a lower score than some schools that are older. And that's because when a school is about 30 years old, what do we know is likely to have been replaced at that point? The roof, the HVAC, all the big ticket items that are in the building. So you may see some scores where a newer building has a lower score because they're riding in on that 20 to 25 year range, and the roof is now set to be replaced. And the HVAC is now in line potentially for replacement. Again, here with your, did I miss middle schools? Oh, middle schools was here. And then secondary, high schools, and the other facilities. Again, 100% for UTRGV, as you see these differing spaces. Overall district average at 75 is a very strong score overall. And then educational suitability. Suitability is the functionality of the space. Does it have the spaces it needs to provide the services and the programs for the students that are there? So if you're going to have a CTE program and you want to have a welding program, you got to have a welding shop. If you want to have health services, health occupations, you're going to have a nursing station. And those, if you're going to provide, the introduction to nursing, the CNA, that's what I was looking for, those programs, you got to provide those spaces. Is the cafeteria big enough? Are the hallways big enough? Gyms, all of these spaces, kind of that what's that term? Feng shui, just the flow in the working and how the spaces work for education. Overall, pretty strong. Some challenges at the Instructional Guidance Center. We do see that score there. But as you see these scores coming down, you can see there are some challenges, but by and large, your score's right at the fair mark at 76 overall. Every elementary school averages at about 76. Again, 75 for middle and right at 75, 74 for high school averages. And one other caveat on suitability. Suitability is what you aspire your buildings to be. So if you're wanting them to have these music spaces and you're wanting them, that's the benchmark. It's what you aspire for your buildings to be in order to provide education going to the future. And you have to think in these terms because look, you're going to do this bond. And you can't go back to this well. You have to do this right the first time. When you design these spaces and you think about the spaces and now I'm creating pressure for these guys. They're going to walk out all anxious. You've got to make sure that these spaces are defined and they provide the programs and they provide the services for your students going forward. All right, technology readiness. And this is an area of strength. Technology readiness, I don't care what kind of router's in the space or the Wi-Fi nodes or all those things. What I care about is when your teachers show up and the computers go on and the students walk into the room, does it work? Is there any lag? When they do student testing, does it work? I'm going to call them smart boards because that's who I am and that's how old I am for you educators. Smile and nod. your smart boards work? Does the technology work when you walk in the door? And by and large, it does in this district. You have hiccups. Look, we got that everywhere. You've got that at home. But by and large, this is an area of strength, and it's also an area where investment has been made in your district. So I applaud the efforts in that area. And grounds, again, this is the green spaces, the drainage, all those outside spaces, parking lots, pavement, sidewalks, landscaping, all those, everything outside of the building envelope is what we rate in grounds. All right, and again, grounds. And I think what you'll see, a lot of these scores are coming into that fair range, and when we get into the surveys, you're going to find that most folks kind of view the facilities and the grounds kind of in that range. It's not to say that efforts haven't been made. Your district has done a great job of keeping the facilities of where they are at this moment. And if you go back to our earlier assessments from, I believe it was 5 years ago, our numbers have held. All right, so they've made the investments of the dollars they have, and they spent them wisely to kind of tread water and bring it forward, okay? Because here's what we know. Here's what you know about your house. Everything may work today, and you may go home tonight, and you may get up tomorrow and find that the bottom of your, I'm gonna jinx somebody, the bottom of your hot water heater fell out, and you've got a flooding. Or that little line on the back of the refrigerator let loose, and you've got a flooding issue. Same with schools. Little things happen. Oh, she's shaking her head over there. Little things happen all the time. And so there's always this constant cycle. You are never finished maintaining a school. You're not finished maintaining this building. The day it opens, something needs to be done in order to carry it forward and make it operational. And your overall combined scores. Now, these are weighted. You got a building condition, suitability, technology, grounds, and then a combined score. And these are weighted based on their relative importance working with your district to provide these combined scores. An overall average of 77 is pretty strong. You see 74, 75, 92, again, technology is very strong, and you're carrying that forward. And again, overall combined scores for your middle, and then your other averages and district averages. All right, so survey. So your FFAC is made up of community members, school folks, parents, everyone from across the school community weighing in on and advising the system in regards to their facilities. And so it was made up of district staff, parent. Their most important items to address based on their assessments were infrastructure, heating and cooling, safety systems always rank up there, parking and drop-off areas. So as you look across these, you can kind of see, in summary, a look toward CTE, a look toward on-site athletic fields and performing arts spaces. But STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and CTE, career and technology education, is a conversation that I have nationally because it's so important for students. It's these certifications, these skills going forward. You know, there's 3 jobs off the top of my head I know that AI will never take away. AI can't be a plumber, AI can't be a bricklayer, AI can't fix your HVAC. So it's important that we find these skills, these future-ready jobs that students can have and learn and go forward and be successful with. I shared this slide only to show you that you had participation from across the district in terms of the differing schools that walked the facilities and took a look at your schools. Some key takeaways, and this survey is a little different because this was the FFAC. They feel great about the teachers and staff. They feel like the schools are as well maintained as they can be, and then that they're attractive and inviting and bringing people in. They feel they're strong about the long history and traditions, community and family engagement, and again, academic excellence in strong school ratings. And this is from your FFAC. Improvements they'd like to see is fixing the basics, the building envelope, the HVAC, portables, removing those portables and making sure you have permanent classrooms. That's why when they talk about a new wing, it's that replacement of portables. And then right-sizing common spaces. Again, we talked about cafeteria, those common spaces, the gym, the library, to improve circulation. Top 3 things, again, aging infrastructure. If you're looking at this, HVAC, and as you come on down, you'll see restrooms came as a common concern across all of our polling. Vision in 5 to 10 years. So in that 2 to 3 years, they're looking for that life and safety, the reliability of the HVAC, those core mechanicals. Water is insidious. I mean, it's just insidious. What's the old joke? It only leaks when it rains. Water gets into things and it causes all kinds of problems, as we well know, both at schools and at home. 3 to 5 years, those portables, the wings, an expansion of the life skills, looking at parking and canopies, and then again in that 5 to 10 year range, as we look forward, fine arts and CTE hubs and equitable standards across the district. And then other concerns in this group, life and safety, HVAC, again, that electrical and IT backbone, because you've made strong investments in those areas, but what we also know about our phones is the moment you get your phone, it's out of date. Similarly with technology, you just kind of have to stay out ahead of that wave and make sure you're refreshing those things. And again, portables, restrooms and lockers came up, and then fine arts and CTE spaces that fit the purpose, that are purpose-built spaces. So in person is the one we had here at McAllen High School right at a month ago. Had a nice strong turnout. Majority of the folks we had staff members, community members, and parent guardians. They saw the conditions of the schools as fair. Came into that 75% range, which is what we saw in our ratings. Top most important things, again, building conditions and equitable facilities, making sure that what's available in one school is available in another school and going on across the district. Again, strong participation, a little bit more out of the McAllen High School area, but again, folks from across the district participated in this polling. And then again, very proud of the academics in the system. I think that can be a point of pride for your schools. And then an area of focus, again, facilities led the way in terms of what they feel like can be an improvement for the district. This is that wish. If we had a wish for the district, what would it be? And it's improved facilities, which is what we're here to talk about. Overall condition perceived as fair to poor, really, in terms of this group. And the following statement, there should be equal academic opportunities, and folks strongly agreed with this. Again, this PowerPoint and other information regarding is available on the website. And there should be an expansion of music and performing arts, a little bit of a balance here that folks agreed, but you had a strong neutral presence on this particular topic. Equal resources for special education, again, and kind of looking at your facilities and looking at your design and looking at your suitability, making sure all of these spaces are available for all students. And then there should be an expansion, again, CTE and STEM going forward. Facilities planning is most important for this group. Building condition, equitable facilities, followed by improved utilization of spaces. That space optimization, which lends itself back to that capacity and utilization in terms of schools. I would support consolidation of closure of buildings. In this group, 71% of the folks agree or somewhat agree with this statement. And then renovations and additions, of course, 79% with 16% somewhat agree. Agree with the following statement. I would support new construction of a centralized performing arts center. Again, kind of a blended response here. And this was a topic of conversation. The reasons included is it was a topic of conversation that's been shared with us as we did our school visits in an area of concern. Most important in this optimization plan, capacity and utilization came forward, equity of access, and then cost efficiency. Basic facility requirements, we include this to kind of give that broader scopes, really to help inform. Again, I know there's a lot of information here, but it helps the board in terms of their decision-making process. It helps the board kind of gather, okay, the community has come back to us, and we've got an online survey in just a moment that we'll share. This is information from the community to help the school board in their work going forward. And critical plan, again, equity a balance across the district, maintenance in terms of this facility optimization plan, and then transparency. And I think that's what we're here about tonight in terms of transparency. All right, online. Now, we had our largest participation on this one. This one was mainly parents and guardians, so a little bit of a different view from the online. And you had strong participation in terms of this. Let me see, 2,562 total respondents. That's a huge number. We don't normally see this number, and that, again, that just is a testament to the concern and the interest that folks in this community have about their schools. All right, employee of the district, you can see the folks that participated in this from outside. Again, a large secondary presence in that. Children, again, at the high school, a lot of concerns around the high school, but a balance of participation from across your school communities. Again, academics is a point of pride here, communication and others at 2%, but that academics is a area of focus where they're proud of. Again, improvement, facilities. Somehow or another, facilities got to be twice, but facilities. And then perception of the overall condition, they saw it as good to fair, primarily, with some seeing them as excellent, depending on where their students go to school, of course. Following statement, there should be equal opportunities. Strongly agree with this group. There should be an expansion of the music and performing arts. This particular group felt like this should be an area of priority. Equal resources, again, strongly agree. An expansion of CTE, again, agreeing strongly, somewhat agree and strongly agree at that, what's that, 76, 85%. And then what facility planning is most important to you? Building condition, safety and security is always a top. Improved building utilization was at 14%, and then building capacity at 23%. And so when the board begins to look at these plans and begins to formulate the final process going forward, these are some of the key metrics they'll use in terms of shaping that plan. And then again, least important, improved utilization, improved extracurricular activities led the way there. I would support consolidation or closure, a little bit of a different mix here, but a little over half the respondents agreed or somewhat agreed. Support renovations and additions, strong support in this area in order to accommodate future needs. And then Centralized Performing Arts Center in this particular polling had more support, as you can see. Priorities most important, equity of access, capacity and utilization, the special program. So a little bit of a different view on this in terms of the online participants, those 2,500 or 2,600 folks. Broad support, what am I trying to say? This polling aligns largely with what we saw in the prior polls in terms of watertight building envelope, reliable air conditioning, secured and locked buildings, and reliable internet connectivity. So one of the things we had in this is we had an opportunity for open-ended responses. So what I did with this is took a look at the FFAC open-ended responses, at the in-person survey, as well as the online, and I disaggregated all that information and brought back to central themes to share with you in terms of the combined open-ended response. So, additional thoughts or topics. Number one, modernizing the aging facilities, health and safety, reliable HVAC. 4, right-sizing those schools, equity of access across campuses, purpose-built learning spaces across for CTE and STEM. Interesting note, specific needs included tennis courts. Traffic flow and parking became kind of a theme across in terms of the flow to parking lots, that pick up and drop off. It's always amazing to me the number of folks that are willing to transport their children to school, and we have that yellow limousine that'll pick them up and take them home every day. Gas got to be $5 a gallon when I was an elementary principal, and I just knew that would cut down my car rider, and I was wrong. Across the board, I was wrong. Staffing, pay, and support came into the surveys, transparency, funding strategies, and then that experience of students and their everyday quality of life. All right, so at this point, I'm going to turn this over. We will be here. I'm going to turn this over now to Narissa for her portion of this. I appreciate your time in this. Please come up and see me afterwards if you have any further questions. Oh, you need this, don't you?
Yes, I do. Can you do slides if I tell you?
You can.
Will you help me with that? How do you do that? Okay. Hi, I'm Narissa Sparks, and unlike Dr. Richards, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time, so I'm going to tie myself to this podium. Work makes it a little easier. Like I said, let me get this right here. I'm Narissa Sparks. I'm with MGT, and I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I am a former maintenance director for a large urban school district. There we go. The maintenance director for a large urban school district, but I can't operate a microphone stand. We had 164 schools, and we housed 130,000 students in Jacksonville, Florida. And I've been with MGT for about 3 years, and we've been working with McAllen ISD for a few months now, and I can honestly say I think I know your schools better than I know my own home at this point. But I'm going to talk to you today about the facility side of this. So, next slide. First of all, Dr. Richards did talk about the basis scores, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how do we come to these scores. When we do our facility assessments and our walkthroughs, we have a list of building systems that we look at and score based on condition. So we have a condition of new, good, fair, poor, or unsatisfactory, as you saw in the earlier slides. And so we look at the different systems. We look at the HVAC, the roofing, the floor, the ceiling, and we give each a grade. Now, with these scores, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but each system has a certain value and a certain weight to the whole. So like your roof system is going to be more expensive than your flooring, so it has a bigger weight to the total. And building anything that's new, of course, comes out on that item would be 100%. So that, as you saw, like this building is 100% because everything is new. What you want to strive for in older buildings is to get back to good, because you're never going to get that building back to new. You're never going to get back to that 100% because there's always some form of depreciation in the structure or what have you. And I'll try to not make this as boring as it sounds, but just giving you a little background before we talk about the scores. But the district overall score was 76%, and that really reflects the aging infrastructure and a lot of deferred maintenance priorities that have been postponed due to limited capital. Next slide. So some of the highlights of those scores, or some of the anomalies you saw in the scores, across the board there were a lot of fares in the average, but one of the anomalies would be the high school building condition, and that came in at a lower score, which reflects a need for modernization. They really need, at the high school level, interior modernization, not only of finishes and fixtures, but also of spaces, modernizing CTE spaces or specialty classrooms, science rooms, things like that. Middle school technology averaged a little bit lower than the others. A lot of the other averages came out in the 90s. Middle school technology reflects modernization needs, especially another component that goes into technology is the electrical. Can that electrical system support the technology, modern technology? So there were some issues with that and some shared space with server rooms and such like that. The elementary overall was 77%, which is kind of consistent with the scores across the board. A lot of the primary needs were deferred maintenance, of course, aging interiors, and the use of outdated portable classrooms. The grounds condition, some of the items that were lowering the grounds condition included aging asphalt, the deteriorating covered walkways or spaces or walkways that did not have a covered walkway. And of course, there was a lot of drainage issues, such as Alvarez and some other schools had drainage issues throughout campus. And the administrative facilities fared well overall. The interiors have been well maintained. A lot of it is with routine renewal of, as Dr. Richards said, renewal of your HVAC system and your roof system and things like that. So next slide. So now that is the conditions, but we're going to talk about the projects going forward. So district-wide, one of the projects we planned was LED modernization, updating everything to LED, and also doing the energy management controls, so getting all the HVAC on central controls. And the thing that those two items will do is save a lot of energy, which actually saves a lot more costs than you'd think. We've done this with schools, with my home school district I worked in. We saved millions in energy costs just by doing these two things. So that money goes back into your general fund and goes to, you know, to teacher salaries and teaching materials and things like that. Another item with security that needed to be done, or we had kind of talked through, is making sure that there's access controls on all doors, that security cameras are upgraded, and that our high schools have proper vestibules, or all schools have proper entry vestibules. We want our schools secure. And another district-wide project was, at the elementary school level, was upgrading data cabling. It's already been done at the high school and middle school level, for the most part, getting the elementary schools up to speed in the latest data cabling. Next slide. Now, some of our findings and recommendations, we got them categorized based on, well, different categories. The first was the enrollment and capacity balance. As you saw in the earlier slides, there was some schools appeared to be overutilized, others underutilized, and those overutilized schools, such as Roosevelt and Garza and Morris, lost my place, such as Roosevelt and Garza, those schools have a lot, there's schools that have a lot of portables. I got them mixed up, actually, I apologize. Gonzalez, Milam, and Morris were the ones that had a lot of portables, and we want to, across the board, district-wide, work on a portable removal program to get students back out of portables, because they're considered temporary classrooms. They've always been considered temporary, but with the lack of funding, of course, they become more permanent. So removing those portables were a priority there based on the capacity. And then also at the high school level, modernizing facilities and adding outdoor seating for eating or you know, outdoor learning spaces were some of the recommendations. Next slide. Oops. For facility equity, some of the or most of the elementary schools had detached gymnasiums. We wanted to make sure that they all have detached gymnasiums for the equity. Those are valuable spaces for at the elementary level. So we have some schools that are going to either enclose those pavilions that are existing or build a whole new gymnasium. And then, of course, replacing portables with permanent classrooms at the schools we mentioned. Remodeling cafeterias or expanding them at specific schools to make sure that all the cafeterias are equitable and the kitchen spaces. And of course, developing the long-term portable strategy and modernizing systems that have not yet been updated, such as roof, HVAC, electrical. Okay, next slide. All right. For the building systems and infrastructure renewal, there is a need there's a need to update a lot of items that through deferred maintenance have not been able to get to. You know, due to lack of funding, we haven't been able to get to several items. So the next step is to bring all those systems back to good. There has been, the maintenance department has been amazing at, when funding comes available, replacing those chillers, replacing roof systems, but this needs to continue to bring all the buildings back to good. And then, of course, standardizing HVAC controls district-wide, working on the building envelope, and then working towards interiors. Next slide. Now, for the deferred maintenance, the findings were that there is a strong maintenance culture, and there has been renewal when they can, when the district has the funding to do so. But continuing that renewal of systems, your 15-year-old chillers or your 20-year-old roof systems, continuing that and actually forecasting and trying to get in a cycle or a plan to get all the buildings painted in, say, 10 years. A rotation, developing a plan to get a rotation of renewing systems. And next slide. Sorry, I'm a little more dry than Dr. Richards. I would like to keep building systems exciting, but they're building systems. For safety and security, we talked a little bit about this. We found that there's the vestibules, some of the vestibules at high schools were put in out of urgency, and we have recommended to, redo those or create better vestibules and better spaces to go into the high schools and more secure building exteriors with the updated cameras and access controls. And also to add exterior lighting. We found that there were spaces that didn't have enough exterior lighting, so with the LED updates to add exterior lighting where it's needed. For technology, as you saw in the scores earlier, the technology foundation is good. A lot of what we found for technology that are in our recommendations would be updating electrical. So you have electrical systems that are, some of them old as the building. And so those electrical systems are struggling to keep up with modern technology or one-to-one, technology. And then, of course, along with technology comes along those electronic access controls and building automation. And then next slide. Now, we did talk a lot about, through the planning phase, project planning phase, about new construction. There is a lot of deferred maintenance to be had, but there's also a need for, again, equitable facilities district-wide and removing those dated portables and getting everybody into actual brick and mortar buildings. So with that, of course, we had one of the recommendations for new construction was those gymnasiums that we talked about, building new gymnasiums where they don't have them, or turning the pavilions into a gymnasium. That way they have a conditioned space to, it's not only a gym, but it's also a flex space. It's a space where they can have assemblies and such. So getting that across the board at the elementary level was a priority. To enclose the pavilions, we estimated about $2.63 million, and to build new ones, they're about 3.8 per project. And I have to note that these are budgetary estimates. These are not based on architectural drawings. That's the fun part, designing and implementing this. And then, of course, the new classroom wings. We came up with some approximate square footage and approximate costs for those, but Gonzalez, Milam, and Morris, we decided needed new classroom wings based on the capacity and the use of portables. I know there's a lot of portables out at Gonzalez and a lot of portables out at Morris. We want those to go away. And then the next slide. Performing Arts Center. Now, when we were walking through schools, doing the educational suitability and the building condition assessments, one of the things we found is that the music rooms across the board at every school needed modernization or needed storage or just needed a space to for music at all levels. At the elementary level, there's music rooms around that were good. We found some at middle schools that were good, but to get it equitable across the board, the amount of music rooms that need to be modernized and brought up to date led us into the constructing a central performing arts center. I know this has been a a project that the district is passionate about. The community and it came out in the community when we were talking to teachers and when we did the surveys that the mariachi and the performing arts in this community is huge. We'll go on to the next slide. And so we made a case for it. We made a case for needing a performing arts facility. Again, the spaces we did see may not have had the proper acoustics, didn't have the proper storage. There were several things that brought down those suitability scores based on music rooms alone. And to bring everything equitable, you know, of course, interior modernizations will still happen at the school level, but to build a performing arts center that is central and for competitions and for concerts and community events. And it really, it's not just for the district, it's for the whole community. It can be utilized for not just music, but for the performing arts, for gatherings, for the community engagement like we had done, or something like we have here. So this is not only just a performing arts center, but it's intended to be a versatile, central community space. Now, of course, we don't have a designer or an architect that has done this, but some of the ideas that were thrown around, or some of the concepts, let's say. The main hall would have about 1,000 seats, and then there would be, of course, educational rooms or ensemble rooms, practice spaces for the groups that are about to go on, and then you have your production, your dressing rooms, wardrobe, your lobby and concessions. So bringing that all together, we came up with a hard construction budget of $35 million, and then the soft costs would be your architectural fees, your permit fees. All of those come together to be about $45 million on that facility. And of course, these are budgetary figures. Now, CTE. When we were walking the schools, I did personally walk my set of schools, and I did visit McAllen High School. And at McAllen High School, they have a wonderful program over there, and the students are very passionate about what they're doing in there. But the building is just not keeping up with the students' ambition. The aging electrical, the aging equipment, and the spaces, just, you know, at the vocational building there, just needed to be updated. And there's so much that goes into updating those spaces. It's, you know, not only the infrastructure and the HVAC and the electrical, but it's also the equipment that goes in there. And, you know, with changing technology, with welding and different career paths, it's just time to bring everything up to speed. I know that when I was talking to the teacher in the auto shop, I believe, they were just very proud of this space, of what they do there. And they gave me the grand tour of everything they're doing, and it's just such a wonderful program. And it, you know, we just felt that it needs proper spaces. And again, next slide. Okay. Again, to build a central facility, that brings it equitable across the board. So you're not pouring money into, say, McAllen High School, but you're putting, you know, less into, say, Rowe, because Rowe is a newer school. It brings that equity of access to everyone. And it also aligns with building a workforce for the community. And of course, with all the programs, the dual credit programs that MISD has been involved in, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here for a central facility that will not only help students build a career path, but also help the community with workforce growth. And so some of the features that this Career and Technical Education Center would have would be for The trades we're looking at would be welding, construction trades, automotive, and health science. And so a building, you know, the concept of the building would have some automotive bays, welding booths, a classroom worth of welding booths, a construction lab where it would not only be carpentry, but it could be plumbing, HVAC, just a multi-purpose layout of a space. And then some general classrooms, and then of course the core infrastructure. And on the hard construction costs that we came up with was also 35 million, and the soft costs bringing it up to about 45. And the approach on this was intended to be more of a phased approach. So putting in the infrastructure, starting with the top priority programs, and then maybe expanding to add other programs as you go. So it would be more of a hub, but also an expandable hub. All right, next slide. And now I'm going to talk about district-wide renovation costs. Now, when we're talking about the basis scores, and hold on one sec. When we were talking about the basis scores, each building component is assigned a weight when we're doing our assessments. So, like I said, a roof system would have a bigger weight than, say, flooring or ceiling or what have you. So we go through and we score the building systems, and we make note of what needs to be done to bring it back up to good. Like I said, this building is 100%. So the FCI on this, you know, I believe the building condition portion of it came out to, I think, 98.8. Well, that leaves you with a, 0.2 facility condition index. But let's say a building scores an 80 on our assessment. That gives you about a 20% FCI, which equates to 20% of the building value needing renewal. So this is how we develop the renovation costs based on this. So we come up with, through RS means and local vendors, and come up with a construction cost per square foot. I know this is a boring part, but construction costs per square foot of a building to multiply by that FCI to come up with what it would be estimated to renovate that building. Now, this doesn't include the projects such as, this is just for renovation. It doesn't include the projects such as needing to remove portables or needing to, for the educational, you know, needing the gyms. So these aren't included in this. This is just the renovation costs of the building, just based on the facility condition index. So here's the next slide. Okay, elementary renovation budget. Now you'll see some of these that are blank, and that is because that building scored 85% or higher already. But that does not mean nothing's going to be done at that school. So say Sanchez or Perez, those are newer buildings and they scored higher, but there's still work to be done. There's still some life cycle renewal that needs to be planned within the next, 10 years. This is a 10-year plan. So whereas the roof doesn't need to be replaced now, it probably does in another 5 years. And so seeing that blank doesn't mean nothing's going to be done there. We do have project plans for each location. I believe Perez is one on the list for a new gym. So the total renovation costs at the elementary level came out to approximately $105 million. And this can be considered deferred maintenance, equated with deferred maintenance costs. At the middle school level, again, there was, each building did have a score of lower than 85, so the total budget for the middle school level came out to about $69 million. And then at the high school level, came out to $119 million. There's a lot of interior modernization that needed to happen at the high school level. And when you pull this up online, you will see a plan for each of the schools. We have and I'll show you in a minute, but what each school needs, or what the conditions were, and then what the plan is. And then for the alternative sites, instruction and guidance, Lamar Academy, and this building, there are about $8 million in renovation costs. The reason for instruction and guidance in the lower scores is most of their core high school programs are in portables. So that, and the condition of the portables, they need to be either modernized or replaced. So there was a lot of systems in those portables that needed to be updated to match what the students needed at the high school level. That's why you saw a lot of those lower scores. And then, of course, the administrative spaces came out to about $12 million in life cycle renewal and modernization. Next slide. And then we have a few recommendations for funding sources. Of course, there's local with the GO bonds or GO bonds, and tax notes, and there's also funding at the state level, and then there's creative ways to come up with funding, especially around energy and such at the federal level. So creative funding is not only going for bond money, but also going for grants that would support LED updates, things like that. So there's a lot of options to complete different types of projects out there. So we made sure that we included a lot of the different sources. And then next slide, I will just show you one of the elementary levels slides. These are online, and there are 2 slides for each school. So your school will be in there with the key takeaways and then the project plans. So for, in this case, Alvarez, we show the scores, the building conditions, suitability, grounds, and technology. Name some of the items at Alvarez that were needed. I walked that school. There was a lot of drainage issues there. There was interior finishes, things like that. And the undersized cafeteria, which became one of the top priority projects, is to expand that cafeteria. And then for each school, you'll see by these categories the top projects. So, and that's it for the facilities side. I believe you can go to the end and hit the Q&A. So I'll be happy to take any questions or comments or. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. So I'm a McAllen person. I live on the north side. Obviously, a lot of the 100 plus are all on the north side, where we're going to eliminate the majority of the portables. And then obviously during your inquiry, it talked that there was a lot of, a consideration was consolidating and shuttering some of these schools. But all the schools around there have some level of budget. So is this a wish list? And I'm just saying that because I believe in this bond, but if you're going to ask people for this kind of money, they're going to say, why is it all going to the north side? Because a lot of it is going to the north side. And why are we not shifting kids around to different schools?
Well, at this point, decisions haven't been made on.
I'm just making some recommendations.
Yeah. Decisions haven't been made on any facility movement. We have provided the conditions and the recommendations for each location. We have also, in the actual master plan, prioritized these projects. So they are prioritized by 1, 2, and 3. The items that are a priority 1 would be safety and security, or items that are of immediate need. So if you have a leaking roof, those things need to be done immediately. So those are priority 1. Priority 2 would be your interior modernization and updating of classrooms, updating of science rooms, things like that. Now, priority 3 is going to be more of your kind of wish list items, not necessarily wish list, but the things that you can drop off the list if the funding isn't there, or bump it down. Not necessarily drop off, but bump it down. Now, with that said, yes, there is funding going to each school, and it is based on those priorities. Now, when the district gets through with the priority ones and starts looking at the priority twos, that's when they start deciding where to shift the funding into the facilities. It's not a linear decision. It's more of we've provided everything that needs to be done and what we recommend needs to be done, but those decisions will be made after the immediate needs are taken care of. Then those decisions at the 3 to 5 year level will be made by the district.
I understand that, but just from a consultant perspective, our trustees should know, hey, if we shutter these schools, we save this much money. If we shift kids around, we save this much money. That doesn't seem to be a consideration. And that was one of the things that was brought up, that obviously the citizens are open to that. I'm just saying, because we want to sell this to the people out there. We want to make sure they get their bang for their buck. And if you're not going to give them the bang for their buck, they're not going to vote for this. And that needs to be a hard consideration for everybody here.
Yes. All right.
I'm wondering if you have an estimation on what percentage of this, to my calculation, $630.4 million is going to come from grants, et cetera, and how much of that will be reserved for the bond that the voters will have to approve?
The exact estimates of that I do not have at this point. I believe they've brought on a firm to work on those estimates. What we're providing is the needs and the recommendations.
If I may add to that, the projects that are provided tonight is an assessment of all of our facilities in the district, and it includes every type of project that we could consider taking on. As Ms. Sparks said, there are priority levels. There are things that have to be taken care of immediately and other things that can wait. As far as the bond, those are two different topics. That's one mechanism in how we can fund those projects. However, decisions have not been made neither as to what projects will be prioritized and actually come to fruition, nor if the board would have to make a decision as late as February to decide on whether or not to go out for a bond. At that point in time, the board would determine the amount of the bond that would take on. Just because, and I haven't done the math, but by your calculations, it's a certain amount. That doesn't mean that the district will automatically go out for a bond for that amount. It would be based on what the immediate needs and what is determined. We do have our financial advisors who have advised us that we can go out for a $335 million bond without increasing the tax rate. We also are working with our pre-bond planning firm who will help us prioritize the list of needs as to what can be accomplished with that funding.
And our place in that is to provide a well-rounded picture, not only to the district, but the community of what the needs are, what could be done with those needs, and so that way those decisions could be made. Everything is on the table at this point. Not only the building conditions, the community's involvement or engagement, the enrollment projections, the capacity utilization. Now the district has all those tools to make those decisions.
Any other questions? If you could raise your hand if you'd like a microphone. Yes.
So I understand that no decisions have been made as far as prioritization of funds, and this isn't necessarily a question directed towards you, but prior to this decision to move forward with a bond, is it going to be made abundantly clear to the community what projects have been prioritized and fit into that upper level tier, what projects have been deprioritized and put into that third level tier, and just how much funding is going to be coming from that bond to cover each of those projects? Is that going to be made known available to us as the community members?
Yes, absolutely. If the district were to proceed with a bond, they would have to declare what projects would be funded by the bond. And as a matter of fact, some level of detail has to be included in the ballot that goes out to the public for voting. So those projects have to be identified. And they're placed in different propositions, and then the community can vote a certain proposition yes and another one no, or approve all of them, depending on what the community sees.
And the prioritization of those according to our school board and how our school board is viewing it, or our district is viewing it, will also be provided?
Yes, it'll be a process that we will be hosting meetings such as this. We will be working with a committee of community members, staff members, board members, parents, and together we will be prioritizing, making those recommendations to the board, and then the board will determine which projects to prioritize, what that final ranking will be, and we will make that abundantly clear. Right now, all the information that we have transpired through these 9 months is posted on our website. If you go to community resources on our homepage, there is a website called Facilities Forecast Advisory Committee. We have videos of every single one of the meetings we've had. We have all of the PowerPoints, including this one. So the information that we are providing, we've provided press releases out to the public, communication to the public, posted on social media. So we are trying to be as transparent as possible with the information as that information is coming. Thank you for your question.
And I can say that when we started this project, the district did emphasize that transparency is very important. And so when we wrote this plan, the reason why the facility master plan is 479 pages is because we laid it all out there. We want everything, not only the district, but the community to know everything that's out there to help make those decisions. Here's, each site has a mini master plan. So that way, you can see that we've touched every corner of this district, trying to come up with what the needs are and what the plan is for those.
And I might add that we didn't know what we didn't know before we came here. So a lot of the information the board is taking in tonight is information they've seen, but it hasn't been really shared or explained. So the fact that the question is, well, what would it cost to enclose one of these gyms? What would it cost to build a freestanding gym? We talk about a performing arts center. Well, what's a ballpark on what that would cost? We talk about CTE and STEM like we talked about in the surveys. Well, what's the potential cost behind that? So this plus or minus number that was shared earlier is just that, a number. I mean, this is monopoly and this is go. And so as the board gets into these numbers and the numbers are shared and you guys dive into it and they have these additional hearings, this prioritization will come forward, and then a number out there will be shared with the community.
And I just want to add that it comes from you guys, from talking with you guys, from community input, meetings such as these. The last time a study was done like this was 10 years ago. So you can just imagine how the buildings have deteriorated, how conditions have been in 10 years. So this information that we're finding out right now, we're finding out with you guys, and it's a process that we're going to go through with you all and be transparent and open and hear back from you guys to listen to the needs of the district, the needs of the buildings. So all suggestions are welcome, and we are all here to answer your questions and take those into consideration.
With that said, I'd like to add, I'm grateful that all of you are here tonight, and I hope that it had been a larger group. But since you're here, please go out to your neighbors and talk about this, share the website, our emails, our information's on the website. Send us your thoughts. Send us your questions if you need to, but communicate with us. The more people we hear from, the better. We have some very, very big decisions to make as we come back from the holidays, and so we're here to listen and make sure that when we have to make these decisions, we're making them, yes, in the best interest of our MISD community, but overall for the entire community. So call us, text us, email us, let us know what you're thinking, and share it with your neighbors and your friends so that we can hear from them as well.
Do we have any other questions? Nope. Thank you. I will turn it over to Mr. Rivera.
I just wanted to thank you guys again. I know on behalf of all the trustees that are here, thank you guys for showing up and for participating, for your questions. We'll continue to answer them. I'm getting phone calls. I'm sure the rest of the trustees are as well. Everybody's curious. I do want to thank you guys because you have placed your trust in us before. This is something that when I got on the board a few years ago, along with Trustee Peña and with our new trustees, we went out for a defeasance, which is helping a lot with the ability to go out without a tax increase, the ability to generate revenues to fix our buildings and conditions. That is large part to you guys. You guys are the constituents, you're the voters. So thank you guys for going out there. Thank you guys for caring about the district and for all your input. So if there's no further questions, I will close the meeting at 7 o'clock. Thank you guys.